All right, I want to welcome everybody to Everything You Know About InfoSec is Wrong, the panel that is not going to attempt to share any profound truths whatsoever. There will just be entertainment, and that's why we have popcorn. So please help yourself. I want to introduce all of our wonderful smart panelists. These are some of the people with the loudest opinions in the industry. And I am so grateful that they agreed to come and do this for us. So let me see if I can go off the cue card and then make stuff up. First of all, let's start with Ian Amit, who is, what has he not done? He's been with IO Active, he's been with Amazon, he is now CSO at Simpress, he's on the B-Sides Las Vegas board, DC 9273 co-founder, and his buzzer, everybody has a custom buzzer, his buzzer sounds like this. All right, next we have Katie Masuras, who's Chief Privacy Officer. Yeah, none of these things are true anymore. She was a Chief Privacy Officer at HackerOne. No. She is the one who created the bug bounty program at Microsoft. She is the one who convinced the Pentagon to have a bug bounty program. She is the foremost worldwide authority on bug bounties, and you always want to get into a lift car with her, especially if there's karaoke and glitter involved. And her buzzer sounds like this. Now, the British people will probably know what that was saying. Next, we have Mike Rothman, who is the president of Disrupt Ops and also Securosis. A 25-year security veteran, noted author of The Pragmatic CISO, which has inspired at least one CISO in the room here to get into this business. So he has a lot to answer for. Thank you, Mike. And Mike's buzzer sounds like this. Next, we have Rachel Toback, who is CEO at Social Proof Security. She is a two-time second-place winner at the DEF CON Social Engineering CTF. How did you get on this panel? I don't remember inviting you to get on this panel.
You are getting very sleepy.
All right, and her buzzer sounds like this. Next, Mr. Jason Street, who really needs no introduction. Thank you. He is the author of Dissecting the Hack series, and I have lost so many of those books because people keep stealing them from me. He's VP of InfoSec at Sphere, New York. He's a frequent speaker at conferences. He is the only person I know who has broken into the wrong bank on national television, on National Geographic.
It only happened once. Who hasn't made mistakes? Who here hasn't robbed the wrong bank before? Come on.
Me.
It was awesome. And his buzzer sounds like...
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Next, we have Dave Lewis, also known as Gattaca on Twitter. What is it you would say you do here at Duo, Dave?
I have people skills.
He has people skills. Yes, he does. He has no microphone skills, but he does have people skills. He is an advisory CISO on my team, formerly of Akamai, formerly of, well, he's also at Securosis, founder of Liquid Matrix Security Digest. He is on more conference boards than I can keep track of, and he is always in seat 2A, I think, on a plane somewhere.
I'm getting a more travel budget then?
Yeah. You're doing all my travel now. And his buzzer, he doesn't have a buzzer. Make up a buzzer sound. There you go.
There it goes.
Womp, womp. And then last but certainly not least, the esteemed Steve Manswick, who is director of Duo Labs. And boy, you know, if there's something that is broken out there in the cybersphere that he didn't break, I don't know what it is. Between him and his team, By the way, we have some amazing folks who have been speaking at Blackhat for quite some time, but we have several talks going on this time around with some really amazing research, including research into Twitter bots, which is later this afternoon. So go ahead and check that out. Now we're going to start that. The whole goal of this is not, as I said, not to say anything profound. We are not going to have to back anything up with actual facts. We're just going to be having great discussions. Yeah, why start now? Exactly. Why start now? It is. This is all about how you feel, man. So we're going to talk amongst ourselves, and we're going to start with a position that is very near and dear to my heart, which is that I feel that if you haven't worked in an enterprise doing actual defense, you only know less than half of what InfoSec is about. So who would like to argue with me on that? Oh, come on, don't be afraid. Come on, I know you have opinions.
I agree with you.
No, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. No, exactly. Would somebody like to or should I just keep ranting on this?
I actually agree, but I don't want to throw out any Sun Tzu quotes and get in trouble for it. But it's like you have to know both sides of the equation.
You do, but in my opinion, it is not the same thing to be working on offense, pointing out what somebody else did wrong and saying, here, I'm helping you defend yourself. That doesn't count. If you are not sitting in a conference room across from an auditor and a 500-line Excel spreadsheet, you are not doing real defense. Can I get an amen? All right.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, but Wendy.
Go on.
Am I supposed to do this?
Go. Yeah, hit your buzzer.
What the
Go on.
fuck? Oh,
Go
was I
on,
allowed
go
to
on.
Say that? Was I allowed to say that out loud? I can say that. How do we sell that? Right? Because offense is sexy, right? Offense is fun. Offense is what people want to do. They go to a lot of these classes because they want to learn how to break stuff. Then you say, oh, hey, I have this great opportunity for you. We're going to let you sit in a cube all day and get your teeth kicked in. Does that sound great? You know? So
Yeah, sign me up.
I did that for 20 years. It was great fun.
Yeah.
It's great fun, but again, I think defense has a marketing problem as well, which is how do we make it, sexy in order to do the right thing and protect corporate data and help organizations do better business, right? Because again, breaking shit is fun.
Go on, Ian.
So, first of all, I want to say that from my perspective, any consultant that has never been a customer and has never practiced defense, worthless. And I've been there, so I know what I'm talking about. That's how I started.
You were at one point worthless?
I used to be. Now I'm just bigger worthless. Second of all, defense can be sexy, and if practiced correctly, and if kind of put out of the guardrails of the bullshit compliance-based security, it can be very interesting. So there are opportunities on both ends, and I think that, again, consulting is easy, especially if you're just starting and breaking stuff.
I agree that defense is sexy. Quite frankly, as I started as a penetration tester originally, and obviously poking holes, finding holes, penetrating holes. Look, defense is sexy like tantric sexy. Okay. Grow up.
You can do
take your
defense
time.
for hours.
Okay. So
Nobody got time for that.
Oh, God, my CEO shaking his head. Eject, eject, eject. All right, anybody else want to come in?
I was literally about to have a comment, but
No, go on.
yeah, I'm good. Yeah, exactly.
All right, next question. Go for it, Dave.
Okay, I'll read right off the card here. Security is evolving, and much of what we used to live under security is now DevOps. Are we better off or worse off for it? Oh, there we go. It begins.
Bullshit. Security is not evolving. Nothing's changed in the past 20 years. Next.
Well, that's just like.
And I would go and say a little bit more. That's not the fault of just the technology. It's that we as an industry are not trying to make it progress. It's like, I think one of our biggest issues is when we see this, is like we're not progressing it. We're looking for the newest blinky box to solve our problems instead of actually tackling what our real issues are.
And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of impetus for folks to stay the course. And when in reality, we should actually be working very hard to change that.
I'd argue that it's not that we're not trying to make things better, or not that we're not trying to change anything.
Well, yeah, sorry, we are. But
You see what he did there? Good job.
I
Good
don't know
job.
what you're talking about. But yeah, no, I mean, having been a defender for 20 years before I ever got into the vendor space, it really was, there were certain parts of the industry where they were quite happy to do things the way they were. They, so many folks out there don't want to go to IPv6. They rather stay with IPv4. It's just one example of, literally millions of them out there.
Well, I think my personal opinion is that DevOps is really just good old-fashioned system administration. When the sysadmin used to understand the full stack, everything from pulling cables to helping debug the applications and the software that ran on it. And yes, that works a whole lot better than slicing it horizontally and having your Exchange admin who doesn't understand anything in the operating system level, or you've got your printer admins or anything. I think we're reconsolidating onto the full stack, and I think that's a good thing. If you want to call it DevOps, that's good, but either that or it's, it's when the operations people said to development, all right, you guys think you're so smart, you run this.
Looking at you, Mike.
That is. Yeah. Well, like everything else I say, it's so long. So, it's an interesting perspective because, DevOps is really a philosophy. It's a culture. It's the fact that we're not going to blame everybody else for our issues. And the reality is most of IT groups are in effect fighting for relevance now, because when you actually sit and talk to a bunch of enterprise folks, they're doing DevOps things and they're not talking to IT, right? They're doing a whole mess of stuff because IT always got in their way, and they said, you know what, I'm done with these guys. I can actually, give me a credit card, give me a cloud account, I'm done with these guys. I'm just gonna actually go and do what I need to do and not worry about it. And because they're in charge of the business and they're actually revenue attached to what it is that they're doing, nobody's really screwing with them. So we as security professionals have a choice, right? We can understand what this is and get out of our cubes and actually go talk to these folks and help them understand what good best practices are relative to security, operations, just a lot of other things that, they don't come out of the womb understanding, right? They're business folks. They do some technology things. They haven't been immersed in a lot of the nonsense that we've been dealing with for a long time, which, by the way, is a great thing. But it also means that if you can build a relationship with them, you have an opportunity to bake a lot of capabilities into the core stacks that they're building, and then we don't have to worry about a lot of the nonsense we've been doing for 20 years.
Penalty, too reasonable, 5 yards.
Does anybody else wish to weigh in? No? All right, well, that said, I will pass it over.
All right, and let's we'll change gears a little bit. I'm sure we've got some opinions up here on this one. So the whole trend of giving logos and websites and PR campaigns to vulnerabilities, is it helping, or you think we're actually hurting ourselves by doing that?
I'm scared to push
Well, I think it's a two-edged sword. It's like there we go. So I think it's. So I think it's a two-edged sword. It's like one thing is like, how do you approach the CEO and CIO without getting them something flashy to look at? It's like, or without giving them something that's people are paying attention to. On the other hand, it's like, there are so many other, MSO 867 doesn't have, a really flashy logo, and it's how many breaches it is responsible for. But it's not fancy. It's like it doesn't have a logo. It's got a birthday cake at DerbyCon every year, but it's like it doesn't have its own logo. So you've got to find other ways to get executive buy-in to the process. These are high-risk vulnerabilities that need to be addressed without having a cute turtle or a Heartbleed logo coming out and website showing it. And so Okay.
Do you want to finish your sentence? Or?
No,
I
I'm
was.
good.
I just had to beat Katie.
I'm good.
Okay. I think they're bullshit, and we should be adults and not use the Disney mechanism of, oh, here's the new flashy thing that you need to take care of, or here's the new ride that you need to
Did you just
get
tell
in
me to be an
line on.
adult?
Yeah.
That's insulting
Yeah.
and offensive, okay?
But we need stickers for our laptops.
And I would never go back to my board or CEO with some stupid, new logo vulnerability. Maybe they'll ask me, and I'll tell them I don't give a shit about it because we're doing something else. We're managing our company risk, and we're looking at KPIs, and we're looking at threats. We're not looking at vulnerabilities.
Wait,
Most
what-
of those things are cool toys for kids who like to play reverse engineering and have
But wasn't
practically
Heartbleed something
zero
that was?
applicability to any risk model or threat model.
So I think that the logos, while they are useful at getting attention, which is literally what they're designed for, they are not a replacement for severity scoring with the overlay of your actual threat model. I know that sounds reasonable, and it's probably not what I'm supposed to say up here, but seriously, this is overall, we've got a bug fatigue problem, like all kinds of bugs. I think, what was it, Canna Security did a report, 40 new CVEs per day that organizations have to measure their risk against those CVEs. That's not an appropriate thing to be like, now which logo? And I think it's got a Heartbleed with a Thundercat and some kind of a boing boing. We are done, people, we're done.
Yeah,
No, absolutely.
Sorry. If I can add to that, I mean, I agree that they're definitely BS, and mostly because that's exactly what's happened, is people are confusing the fact that something has a logo and a PR campaign with how severe it is and how it impacts your organization, right? Sure, if maybe getting a vulnerability attention by giving it a logo and it's a real vulnerability, someone's going to use it over the internet, they're going to compromise your systems, fine, PR that one, right? Because yes, people need to know about it, right? But when you're PRing and giving logos to bugs that require physical access and the patch is going to give you a 30% CPU hit, it's kind of silly in my opinion.
As a social engineer, I love the logos. Ooh, I'm sorry. That's not what everybody wants to hear. Yeah, totally unreasonable. So I think everything should have a logo. No, I'm kidding. I think that we should really make sure that we talk about what the risks are associated with these logofied vulnerabilities, and make sure people understand what the real risks are and just how severe they are. But I say keep those logos coming.
And so there's another great report from the Scientia Institute and Canna Security together, where they actually studied and modeled what proportion of CVEs are actually worth patching because they got exploited. The numbers in that report are startling. Less than 2% of the CVEs out there were actually ever been exploited in the wild. Less than 2%. Everybody needs to chill the F out about patching.
Well, I read a Ponemon report that says otherwise.
To that I say that we know of, right? I don't know.
Well, I mean, hold on a second. There are security groups that may not have a lot of credibility in an organization. I know it's shocking to hear, and I'm sure that's not Ian, but other folks, maybe not so much. And what a logo does, what a high-profile vulnerability does, is if the security team is strategic, they're able to say, I need to fix this with some, and again, I'm not going to say widget or blinky light because that's bullshit, but, if I fix this, I get rid of a whole bunch of other issues.
Well, yeah.
So they use it as a cudgel to basically get what they need much more strategic.
No, the other
And
thing
no.
is it drives the conversation. If it's a vulnerability that's not something that your company is going to be susceptible to, it still drives the conversation. You can have a conversation with your executives, like, you disregard this, it's a fancy logo, but this is the reason why we're protected. Anything that encourages a conversation between security and the management and letting them know what your threat levels are, showing that you're monitoring it and you've already discounted it because of certain impacts of the the enterprise have already been engaged and already been talked to and factored in, it's still a valuable conversation. It's like it doesn't have to be one that's pertainable to your company. It's still a conversation that you can have with your executive management to let them know that you're still reviewing and still maintaining risk assessments on your environment. So
I thought you were done.
I'm sure you did. Yeah, exactly.
So I have to disagree. I don't think that the logo is any help
I don't even have an opinion. I just want to do that.
with executive management conversation. I think a much more effective conversation starter is stealing the shit out of the company and showing them how, with no logo vulnerabilities, you can break in and doing a proper red team and showing them, here's the damage. If this was real, here's an actual damage to the company, material damage. No logos needed. Right. That's the conversation. The logo conversation, I'm sorry, not relevant. It doesn't even get to the cutoff line for my conversations with the board or the management. It's just not relevant unless your company uses this specific thing and it's in that threat model. Yes, it might be relevant for some education, for hallway conversations, whatever it is, for security awareness, great, do that. But for executive management, for risk management, completely not relevant. Do a proper test, show that you can steal stuff. That's a great conversation to have with the board.
I've had those conversations, and yeah, that's why I quit pen testing. Because every time we'd show them what we could do, they would say, but only a Jedi such as you could possibly have done this thing. And we're like, but actually, no, I can teach you how to use the Force too. And we would teach them. I was with At Stake. Anybody remember? Old. But we were at the forefront of application penetration testing, and we were thinking, if we just tell them, because they hired us to tell them, they literally paid us to tell them, then we'll have this problem solved in a jiff. And here we are. My hair has gone pink. I'm so old.
If I can, I wanted to actually grab something that was said earlier about patching and the fact that only 5% of there's a few studies out there showing that very few actual CVEs are used in exploits. I almost feel like that from an attacker's perspective, though, that you need to take these numbers a little bit with a grain of salt, right? Because if I'm attacking you, why am I going to start burning through a bunch of exploits I have for CVEs when all I need to do is phish you, right? I mean, so those studies and stats around, how many vulnerabilities are actually used in real attacks, in my, like I said, in my opinion, probably aren't all that accurate for that reason, right? If your attacker or your threat is unable to successfully take the easy route, well then yes, he's going to start burning through the better bugs. Right?
Yeah, we just have to be honest. It's like APT does not stand for Advanced Persistent Threats.
Oh, absolutely.
It's adequate phishing technique. That's what it
Absolutely.
is. It's
No, I
like it's
agree.
an
Yeah,
adequate
average
phishing technique.
Yeah.
They click the link, they're done. There's no advanced about it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree. That's something that's way overused in our industry. Calling things advanced. Just because it tricked your IT department or somebody got fooled on your end or technology failed to detect or respond to something, that doesn't mean it was advanced. That just means shit happens.
Steve,
right?
you realize that most security people have low self-esteem? Yeah. So if we call it advanced, then we feel better about ourselves.
I think the other thing is that when we have mass hysterics about anything, people aren't in a learning state, right? When everybody's freaking out, they're running around, their hands are in the air, they're screaming, that's not a time to be learning. And so I think what we need to do is keep more logos coming, sorry everybody, but we need to make sure that people understand the realistic threats that are associated with those logos and vulnerabilities, and make sure that people are not in a fearful state when we talk to them about it, because the mass hysterics won't help anyone.
But then we're going to have logo inflation, and everybody's trying to grab that same, in a flooded marketplace, they're going to try to get the more attention than anybody else. Pretty soon you're going to have theme songs, you're going to have musicals, where does it stop?
There's already been songs related to the vulnerability.
I'm so down.
We actually attempted that once and we just failed at writing songs, so we never actually released anything.
Yeah, I'm all for the song thing, but I mean, honestly, if we do continue with the logos, it just is going to cloud the environment. And to that study we keep citing over here, they compared different methodologies for prioritizing patching, and they basically found that random was as good or better than a lot of the patch prioritization strategies. So if we keep glutting with logos, I feel like Vegas will be the place where you could have like a slot machine of logos that you should patch and just be like, it came up triple heartbleed, what do I do, you know? What did I win?
You win $1 million.
That's going to be the next labs project, Katie, just for you for next year.
All right, are we done with that one?
We can make up the musical on the spot if you want.
Yeah. All right, I think we're going back to Dave to introduce the next question. Yeah, go for that one.
Okay, well, so before I ask the question, I just wanted to poll the audience. How many folks in here are builders by a show of hands? Right. How many of you are breakers by a show of hands?
How many wanted free lunch?
Yes, how many? Exactly, there we go. All right, there we go. Okay. Well, so that was pretty much, yeah, okay. So what problem is overhyped and you're sick of hearing about it?
Humans are the weakest link. Humans are your first line of defense. Always, always. Amen.
Yeah,
Not
and
mutually exclusive. They can be the first line of defense and the weakest link at the same time.
That's true. That's
No,
true.
if you're treating your users as a liability, they're going to be a liability. They're the best intrusion detection system you have. Every time a security person says stupid user clicked on a link, stupid user went to a website, stupid information security didn't properly train their users. It's like that's what the rebuttal is. Yep. So yeah, I'm very adamant about that. We have a problem in our industry on how we approach our employees and how we treat them and train them to be an asset for the company and take security properly. If we're giving them a computer and saying, just do the stuff that you're supposed to do without telling them why the repercussions are if they fail, why they need to keep the stuff secure, then we're gonna be treated like janitors. We come in after they've compromised, we clean the machine, we reformat it, we reinstall it, and we go on to the next one. And so they're not gonna have respect and they're not gonna actually take their responsibility seriously.
And we know from neuroscientific studies, I know we're not supposed to talk about any actual like stuff or science here, but sorry. Yeah. But I studied neuroscience, and so I'm going to go into it. We know from neuroscientific studies that people rise to the expectations that we have for them, right? And so if we assume that people are stupid, they might feel stupid, and they might do stupid things, right? But if we assume that people are capable, they're capable of learning, they're capable of being patched, and they can get excited about training or exciting new social engineering techniques that we can show them, they're not going to be stupid. They're going to learn and they're going to talk about it.
I don't think so. I think that we are putting too much on the users to make up for the bad security that on the systems that they're having to use. And we've been saying for 20 years, oh, we just need to educate them. We just need to educate harder. We need to train them harder. How's that working out? It is not working out at all, and it's because the problem is in the wrong place. Go, Jason.
All right. When you have, anybody here has a company with delivery drivers, it's like on the first day of the job of the delivery driver, do you just give them the keys and say, okay, you know how to drive a car, we're good with you? No, you tell them why it's responsible. They have to have a seatbelt, why they have to have blinkers. It's like why they have to maintain the speed limits. You even put devices and GPS units in the vehicles to make sure that they're maintaining those laws and they're actually obeying what they're supposed to be doing.
He's opening the popcorn.
Go on.
Okay. And then you go and you tell them, it's like you even put a number on the back of the vehicle so someone can report if they're doing bad behavior. It's like the same thing with the computer. It's like when you're giving someone a responsibility, you have to tell them, these are the things that you have to do and these are your responsibilities. We've given you these kind of security controls, but it's still up to you to obey the speed laws. It's okay for you to obey what we've told you is good policy on the computer. And if you don't, it's like, I was just surprised it wasn't Ian for this time. It's like I was like, I'm speaking way too long. Where's Ian? It's like
That's what that means.
But basically, what the short of it, we educate them, and there's consequences. You don't let a delivery driver wreck a car 3 times and get away with it without repercussions. You don't let an employee, click on a spear phishing email 3 times and get away with it. And we are. It's like they need to know there's consequences for when they do bad actions.
Does anyone remember the last cholera outbreak in the United States? Right. Because we have sewage treatment plants and we have mechanisms in place in the infrastructure such that when you turn the sink on, one side is hot water, and the other side is cold water. We are the users of that system, and we do not need to care what measures went into place so that we do not have cholera coming out of our taps. If we have not managed in our very short time on computer security earth to make this as seamless as sewage treatment, that's where our work really is. And every user, from the prototypical whatever elder parent person to the most security savvy person, should be able to use technology like tap water in a civilized country.
No, I will see your cholera and raise you polio and measles, because we've eradicated that, and they're coming back because the vaccination, no-vaxxer movement is coming in, which is poor education.
Those who forget history are doomed to repeat.
Exactly. We have the technology to stop those, but because it's human nature and stupid
God, I don't understand
propaganda.
this conversation. Why do we have to choose between securing stuff
Here.
and training users? Exactly. Why is this a choice? The answer's both.
Exactly.
Right? So yes, there are, people who can be influenced to not click on stuff. Teach them not to click on stuff. And there are people that can't.
Why are you being
right?
reasonable? I thought we were supposed to be arguing up here.
There are people, I'm arguing with you.
All right.
I'll just repeat myself and say that I told you so, and I said that nothing's changed in security in the past 20 years. Keep going.
As long as we have cholera coming out of our taps, we need to patch the users.
I think
absolutely.
I think I think we're all right, even the people that are
No.
arguing, right? So
Except for you.
Some of us are writer.
Users are part of the security picture, right? So something that our CorpSec people say to us all the time at Duo is, we're all the security team. There's no such thing as a security team in Duo. Duo is the security team, right? So you absolutely have to train your users. I like to say you have to get them sufficiently paranoid, basically, so they do question things. But the other real problem is that the security tools we put in place for users to use, and even for our IT people to use, they suck. They're hard to use, they're confusing, and they don't do what they advertise they're gonna do, right? So until we start to, like somebody else said, it's the bad operating systems we're giving them, it's the fact we're not locking down their machines, it's all of these other things we're doing that make it when the user does click that link, that of course bad things are gonna happen, right? So you need to do both, right? Users shouldn't be clicking on links, and when they do, nothing bad should actually be able to happen.
Or have processes in place as well.
Exactly, yeah.
So we as security defenders, we have to be able to take the tip of the sword, put it against our chest, and lean forward, because this really is incumbent upon us. Well, okay, it could get a little messy.
You first.
Swords are pointing.
Guess what? You're not the last line of defense.
No, not the
The
last line of
operating
defense.
system is not the last line of defense. The firewall is not the last line of defense. Why does everyone think that once a user clicks on something, oh my God, that's it. It's game over.
Good point. Very, very good
But
point.
it's not.
In a couple of locations, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
But I still do not think that, well, yes, Jason, you use the analogy of, teaching somebody to drive and saying, well, you have to do these things, otherwise you'll crash, and these are the consequences. And yet we still have plenty of crashes. Teaching them is not enough because we don't have enough safety mechanisms for driving in general. So I really think that we need to stop blaming the users, and as a compensation for looking at how we've designed things to begin with, and thinking that we really should do better so that it is not possible for them to be caught by these things. Having said that, nothing is going to be perfect, and we have to be able to respond to what we have. But and to be really honest, every time I hear somebody saying, well, everybody's on the security team, I feel like, well, then what do you guys on the security team do? So, it's a truism, and yet it can be used in the wrong ways to abdicate responsibility, and so I want to make sure we don't do that.
It just keeps going. I totally agree that we should definitely not blame the users, 100%. I think that if we're having these big phishing problems at a company, that's on the company to make sure that we do more and more education for those users, and to make sure that those people are learning in a fun, exciting way. It doesn't have to be boring, but we also need the technical controls in place. So it's a little of both.
All right, good. Next.
All right, I got another good one.
Okay.
This one's just for Katie. I would argue bug bounties are bullshit.
Woo!
Shots fired. Shots fired.
They are. They are, because they are being overhyped, overused, and I am literally like speaking to you as a bug bounty apostate right here, people. If you don't know what that means, that you should look that up. But the thing is, having created some of the most prominent bug bounties in the industry and watching the inflection point where everyone literally is thinking, oh, just substitute the word pen test for bug bounty, problem solve forever. They're not the same. They don't have the same uses. They don't have the same coverage. They don't have the same risk measures. And they do not, same as a pen test, give you any kind of guarantee that you're secure, right? So I saw a Google search term where the term penetration test or pen test and bug bounty finally converged this year. That, to me, is an alarming little bit of data where I feel like the marketing of the hype, and yes, I was part of it, right? I was part of it all, has just overstated what solution that is. It reminds me of the early stages of convincing people that they needed a firewall. And the marketing took over and said, this will stop hackers. We all know that's not true. At best, it's like a little speed bump where you might notice someone going by, right? But this
They
is
might
also
spill the drink.
Exactly, yeah, you might, but that's the whole thing. It's it's early stages of just a different way to find out about vulnerabilities, and absolutely, the way they are being used and deployed right now is bullshit.
But marketing says
Tell us
that.
how you really feel.
I mean, how many folks were here before there was a business hall? That's it? You've all been here the last you haven't been here longer than 5-6 years. Wow, these kids today. I mean, okay, so let me tell you, so we're gonna go back into history a little bit. There used to be a time when you came to Blackhat to actually learn stuff. You'd go to briefings,
No.
and they would do research, and it would be really cool, and you wouldn't have every vendor humping your leg to try to sell you all sorts of shit that you don't need.
You realize where you're at right now?
Oh no, I totally get it. Which
Mikey,
is why
you
I'm
s- you said
typically
we
not
wouldn't talk
invited
about
back
that.
to anything.
Some of us are lonely, okay?
Hey, they fed him a nice bunch of food first. It's legit.
That's right, that's right. But my point in going there is that for a long time, security folks were bitching about the fact that nobody took us seriously, nobody knows what we do, wah, 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 right? And now we're a thing. Right? A thing that shows up on CNN, a thing that gets front page coverage on Wall Street Journal. Whether
Mr.
you like
Robot.
your fucking logos or not, that's the stuff that gets attention to the fact that we actually have to do stuff. And that part of the downside of that is this. Right? Part of the downside of that is that marketeers get involved and they manipulate things in order to drive money. And you know what? That's okay. Because for a long time, we couldn't get 2 red-hot fucking nickels to do anything, and now we can't find enough people to do all the stuff we're expected to do. So if
I
you
love
give
you,
me a
Mike.
choice, I'll take all sorts of swag and parties and free lunches and the ability to sit in front of the board and say, this is why we've got to do stuff.
I still expect people not to take me seriously, though.
So something to add to.
No, I cut you off. My dolphin cut you off. You go. Okay. The big thing that I think about is when people say, should I do a bug bounty? Should I do a pen test? Asking the question, and I pretty much stole this from you, what are you going to do about it? When you find your vulnerabilities, when you find the issues, who's going to take care of them? Who's going to fix all of that? And if you can't answer that question yet, wait until you can, hire those people. And pretty much stole that from Katie, because she's brilliant.
Well, also, I've actually had people hire me to go on a pen test to do they want me to go in and see what their network, and I got in on the first day, and within 3 hours, I told them that I couldn't take their money because they were on a flat tin network. They had no DMZ. Their web server was was connected to the flat network to the accounting department. It was nothing. They had a guest Wi-Fi access point with the name of the company _guest, which was, guess where it was at? Yes, on the same tin flat network. There was no segmentation. There was not even an attempt to trying to do a VLAN. And I'm like, you're trying to ask me to rob your house and you didn't build the walls yet. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Why do you want me? Why are you trying to look for a pen test? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. It's like, I'm not going to charge you money for that. It's yes. Go hire someone to build out your network. then have someone test it. There's nothing to test here. You're compromised. I'm not going to go try to find out who it is, but I'm pretty sure it's a lot of people. So you need to work on that.
It's too
So,
complicated.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the key
Attribution,
thing. It's
the
like
world.
if you're not actually understanding and have the things in preparation to actually respond to the questions that you're getting answered, then yeah, bug bounty is not going to help you.
So Adrian Sanabria actually says that pen test is dead.
I was literally about
What do you
to
think
bring
about
him
that?
up.
Are you going to bring that up?
Yes.
Go on. Go on. Like, what do you guys think?
Apparently, I can't. No. Okay. So no, Adrian talks about kill the pen test, right? And it was this controversial thing, and it is exactly that point. Is that most organizations aren't even prepared because they have actually set up no security, or they've got that old model, hard, crunchy outside, soft, chewy center, which, you know, I mean, who can do a Chewbacca impersonation? That's, to me, you know. Thank you for that. But I mean, I think that's the whole point is we still are moving it away from baking security in where it's the only place where you actually might be able to make a difference, all the way to, well, if we just get it tested at the end, and the testing is moved from, oh, penetration test, that's a way for us to manage our risk. We'll hire those hackers, but they'll be background checked and they'll, you know, have all of these credentials. And now it's in bug bounty land where they're like crowdsourced eyes, but oh, could we also maybe have them background checked and have their, you know, whatever, and also could they be from a certain nationality? I was like, yes, because the bugs respect the country borders. They do. They do. Yeah, so it is all just shifting of terminology, and in a way that's not helpful. And I don't actually know, being in this industry now, professionally in this industry, in my 19th year coming to Vegas, I do not actually know how to get through to enough organizations to build that security in, because clearly more organizations have arisen and they're still doing the same, like test after the fact, test too close to release or post-release where they could really do anything about it. We'll get it in next version. We'll get it next time. Oh, we can't. That's an architecture change, and that's going to take us 3 versions to get to. I don't know how to push that up the stack any further, and the idea of penetration testing as a checkbox that you have to do the thing, that's why I quit pen testing, because I kept coming back and I was like, should I just have changed the dates on the report? Because y'all haven't moved. Why am I here? Why are you paying me?
I like that buzzer way too much.
I love it. So I agree. It gets back to the point that, you know, it's the new shiny thing. So pen testing used to be the new shiny thing, and everyone was doing it. And then someone came up with red teaming and basically sold the same pen tests with a new label, with more expensive price tag on it, doing absolutely nothing more than that. And now there are bug bounties, and there's threat intelligence, and all this bullshit. And people somewhere along the way forgotten that there's actual work that needs to be done. Before you start pen testing and red teaming and threat intelling and beyonding and whatever it is, just doing proper basic security work. And for some reason, all those newly minted CISSPs and CEHs and whatever it is that they're pushing out today just don't know how to do work. So I'm with you, Katie. I have no idea how to fix it. I've dabbled in, you know, working with academia a little bit and actually educating people that are not going to computer science but are on business tracks and stuff like that. I don't know if it's yielding any results so far. We'll have to wait a few years to see, you know, once they've graduated and got to interesting positions. But we have a bigger problem than pen testing and you know, the newest fads and the latest buzzwords. We have a basic how to get shit done problem.
It's a leadership problem. We have, and again, we've become a thing. And now when you had 2 people on your security team, it's, you know, reasonable to lead them. When you have 500, different skill set, different animal. And we, as an industry, have not scaled. But I want to get back to a point that Katie made before, which I thought was very accurate, right? We, as computer security professionals, have been on this earth as computer security professionals for about 25 years, maybe, right? If you kind of talk about some of it. But, you know, 40? Okay, at least 40. But it's still a very young discipline. And we don't have a lot of the metrics. We don't have a lot of the management techniques that we need in order to get to where we need to be. Now, am I making excuses? Of course not. There's a lot of stuff we can do a lot better. But I'm also sitting here hearing everybody talking about we should have solved this problem already. And it's just like, hold on. with the amount of innovation and change that's happening on all fronts, application technology, storage technology, computing technology, networking technology, to think that we're going to be one step ahead of them is total nonsense. The fact that we're only a dozen behind is probably reasonable.
Well, I think a fundamental problem was that so much of our industry consists of the offense side, of people testing and breaking things. You can do that by yourself. And if you can do that by yourself, you kind of imagine that you can also fix it by yourself. And if you can, but these people who then go into an enterprise and realize that when you start trying to fix problems at scale, it's not that you just write a shell script and you fix something. You have to influence an entire organization to make that fix, which means you can't do it yourself. You have to work nicely with other groups, influence them to do it, and it becomes a process engineering issue. It becomes a management issue. It becomes a leadership issue. But most of the people who come to conferences like this, I would argue, are not the ones who are staying home and having to do the leadership. And so we imagine that the problem is all an individually fixable problem, and it's not. We do need more business tracks in security. We do need more management skills, because that's how we're going to fix things at scale, not the onesies and twosies of, ooh, you missed a spot, and oh, I have this new vulnerability and I need a logo for it. It's not an individual problem. It is a communal problem that we need to solve.
How many talks about non-technical, ooh, look at my new vulnerability in God knows no one gives a fuck about software, do you see in Blackhat? Thank you.
I just liked playing the buzzer. I didn't actually. So I have the idea of the executive leadership role in security. It's here, but it's malformed, right? We've got a chief sacrificial lamb officer role. I think that's pretty much what that is. That's how that's pronounced when you actually expand the CISO title. That's how it's pronounced. But average time in role is 18 months. How many institutional, organizational, seismic shifts in process and politics in an organization could be pulled off in about 18 months? Bupkis, right? So I think there's a joke, right? There's a joke, the outgoing CISO. Have you guys heard this joke? 3 envelopes. Has anyone not heard the joke? All right, the 3 envelopes, right? So outgoing CISO leaves the inbound chief sacrificial lamb officer 3 envelopes and said, open them in order at each breach. So first breach happens, he opens it, and it says, blame me, the outgoing CISO. Second breach happens, he opens it, and it says, blame, North Korea, whatever, name a nation state, name it, and then blame them. Third one, it says write 3 letters, right? And that's exactly it. It's the cycle, a never-ending cycle of pain. So yes, we've created some kind of artificial role at the executive level, but there's no punishment for outgoing CISOs who completely cockwombled it right up. You know what I mean? They just get another chief sacrificial lamb officer job because they opened one of those envelopes.
Or actually, the smarter ones go and get a new job at 17 and a half months. So they're the ones that before they have to open the 3rd letter, they found the next job.
All right, so now let's open this up to the audience. What should people be talking about instead of the overhyped stuff? What should we be talking about instead? Just feel free to shout something out.
This is the participation part.
Yeah.
Bashful security people. Wow.
There we
Yeah,
go.
come on.
Tell them to click on everything. How do we?
Well, one of the things that we need to start doing, and I don't see enough, and I tell people there's a valuable thing that you can do instead of buying a new Blinky box and buying more technology, is lunch and learns. Start, because I will tell you this right now, your employees don't care about your data. They're never going to care about your data. They're still falling for Craigslist scams. They're still falling for not 419. They're still falling for all these things. Start teaching with Lunch and Learns how your employees can change the profile settings, the privacy settings on their children's Facebook accounts.
So
do it. I'm not done yet. I'm very
keep
passionate
going.
about
Keep
this.
going.
It's like teach them how to fall for, not to fall for Craigslist scams. When the FBI send out the alert saying reboot your home routers, make sure you send out a notice company-wide for them to do that. So make sure that you're teaching them how to be more security awareness at home. Show them how to secure their wireless routers. Show them the dangers of fake profiles on Facebook. Show them these things, and guess what? They're still not going to care about your data, but they're going to be more security conscious at home, and they will bring that to work. It's like that's one of the things that you can do immediately to help protecting them at home helps protect yourself at work.
You know, that's what we thought too. You know, and I did this 10 years ago in a CISO position, and we held 25 different security awareness courses, and it was attendance was completely voluntary. We used to pack the rooms. People loved it. So we decided, we kept track of who came to each of these classes, and we taught them how to secure themselves at home because we figured, yes, they would care more about securing themselves at home. So we decided to do a phishing test, and since we knew who was coming to the classes, we'd see if people were more likely to fall for the phish if they hadn't come to the classes or if they were less likely. Guess what? We got the exact opposite result of what we had anticipated. The ones who came to all our classes, who loved us, they fell for the phish in bigger numbers.
You needed a better teacher.
That's true.
There you go. But the only thing that we figured out that must have happened was because people loved our classes, and the phish that we sent out was, here, come to this site and test the strength of your password. Thanks for helping us be more secure. And they all fell for it. So there are things that you cannot explain and teach and expect them to be able to do. Even if you are a great teacher, even if they are excited about it, even if they care, it is the hardest security social engineering job in the world. If you can get 1,000 people to click on a link, I'm not impressed. If you can get 1,000 people to stop clicking on a link, I will be very impressed, because this is the fundamental problem of our age.
It's the way of the world. You're in a service organization, people send you stuff. You know, I can get people to click on anything I send them. Just send them an email that says, what the hell, you messed up my order, right? They're going to jump in there and they're going to figure out what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Or HR resumes, they get paid to open resume attachments.
Well, then they
That's
should
what
be,
it's all
that's
about.
where technology comes in. You segment your HR department. You segment some of your departments away from the maintenance.
I have a definition. Hypertext markup language. We're supposed to click on shit. It's the internet. I mean, that's literally what it is. HTML, click here. Click on it. So why would we be expecting them not to click on it? You know, it is. It's a matter, and I think the browsers are making, you know, a huge impact. They are what we used to call the on-ramp to the web. They're making it easier for people to make intelligent decisions, color coding and little locks and all that kind of stuff, and making some dents in that behavior. But we're supposed to encourage clicking on stuff because that is hypertext markup language.
People will never stop clicking on links. The point is not to get the click-through rate to 0, because we have technical controls for that, hopefully in place. But what we can do is we can actually put people in the shoes of an attacker and think about, okay, I work in finance, what would somebody send to me, right? They would send me, this is overdue, we need this now, I'm gonna go to legal if you don't click here and fill this out for me, right? So what we do is we put people in the shoes of an attacker, and we have them craft how they would hack their team. And when they do that, the click-through rate is lower than when we just teach. So what we find is that when people actually get involved and they actually try it, it works a little better. But we're never going to get to 0.
All right, a gentleman in the back.
Change the topic a bit. How valuable is encryption at rest?
Encryption at rest when it's never at rest? Forget it. Unless you're physically carrying a server out of the data center, I have never seen encryption at rest really help. Fight me.
I have actually taken servers out of the server.
Yes, I know you have.
I want to. Sorry, did I cut somebody off? No. Okay. I think, you know, encryption at rest depends on your threat model, right? I mean, if you're an organization where it's reasonable that employees are going to lose laptops and endpoints and may have data on them, then yeah, you probably want to have, you know, the whole disk encryption turned on and make sure people aren't just putting systems to sleep and all that kind of stuff, right? You know, but again, you know, like somebody said, servers do get carried out of data centers occasionally.
Why not? What's your argument against encryption at rest? No. Are you going to argue that SSL also slows down web servers and stuff like that? Come on, it's not.
All right, we have time for one more question. I think the gentleman in the corner here.
The one thing that constantly is taught security management folks like me is talk the language of risk to the business. And I think that's bullshit. Because I think we get lost in risk is this times this, and we can make sure that the calculations are correct, and we get lost in the weeds rather than trying to foster the ability of making sound business decisions based upon weighing options, which is what the conversation should be. I'd like to hear your take on that.
And by your, who did you mean? Y'all's. Y'all's. It was not his. Anybody want to speak?
I'm not sure what the difference is. I mean, options are really about how do you decide between options if you're not weighing, you know, kind of the pros and cons of each and some type of business impact. Now, to the degree that you're quantifying things with some made-up set of risk numbers and scores, I'm totally there with you. But the idea that you can't, that you have to talk to business people and tell them about, you know, kind of how Heartbleed works, that's probably not going to work either. And quite irrelevant to the decisions that they have to, that they actually have to make.
So I somewhat disagree. I think that the situation you're describing is rooted in the fact that we're all coming from an engineering perspective, and like good engineers and somewhat autistic, we're like, oh, risk, we need to solve this problem. Let's come up with numbers that, you know, we're pulling out of our asses, and let's show the business that we know to speak their language, forgetting to actually ask the questions. Like, how do you measure risk? You know, have any of us talked to a CFO and asked them, how do you measure your financial risk? How do you measure your operational risk? And maybe, just maybe, listen to them and use those metrics and use those terminologies and maybe adapt our super engineering vulnerability CVSS score 9 point whatever to what they're talking about. Just maybe.
So I agree. I think there's another point too. Metrics are some kind of abstraction of what it is that you're actually trying to measure. Metrics are just that. How you choose your metrics and what you are actually measuring yourself against and quantifying the risk is important. So one quick example, one of the things at Microsoft when I was a strategist, they said, look, we'd like to keep the rate of 0-day drops on our vulnerabilities at or below current levels. And I said, actually, your biggest risk is non-disclosure of vulnerabilities to you. That they're known to somebody on the outside and they're afraid or they're angry at you or whatever it is. And so they were measuring and they were doing their risk matrix on completely the wrong underlying principle.
But
and
it was comfortable.
Right, it was comfortable and it made sense to them from a business risk, how much do we invest in this particular problem? But that's the whole thing. Metrics are an imperfect abstraction of what it is that you're trying to get done.
All right, and with that, I want to thank everybody on our panel. I think we have one pitch to throw out to you guys.
Yeah, real quick announcement. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew at 2:40 today over in the Jasmine Ballroom, we're going to have a couple team members from the labs team talking about how they used machine learning to hunt down Twitter bots, and they'll be sharing some of the cool things that they discovered. Very focused on the technology of how they do it. We completely stay away from any kind of attribution or that kind of stuff. So it's a great technical talk.
Yeah.
It was China.
What's that?
It was China.
Yeah, it was China. It's always China.
Russia,
All right,
Russia.
thank you. Thank you to Ian, Katie, Mike, Rachel, Jason, Dave, and Steve. And thanks to all of you. Hope to see you around the conference. Have a good one.